Listen-only mode.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and get started here with today's webinar on ConnectSMART SP and configuring and creating widgets in the new platform. My name is Jen Coffey. I'm with our Pro Services team. I do a lot of content creation and custom reporting and views and gadgets for folks. So I'm also joined by Gail Vaughn, who is another SQL-y person who does a lot of our reporting, and she is going to be doing one of our webinars on Thursday. I would just like to highlight that, let me actually just go ahead and show you. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now and show you where you can see the rest of the webinars that we have scheduled. Okay, so you should see. All right, so just from the main homepage of our Docs site, you've got our webinar calendar, and you'll see that today's webinar is listed for today. You've got Gail coming up, and then I have another webinar scheduled next week where we'll be doing custom widgets and data queries and parameters. But the focus of today's is to focus on creating and configuring individual widgets. Last week we did, or I'm sorry, not last week, the week before, we did dashboard creation and configuration. So that was working with dashboards exclusively with widgets that already existed. This one is where we're going to dial that back just a step and show you how you can go ahead and create widgets from scratch. So without further ado, just want to let you know that you do have your GoToWebinar control panel. So if you do need to ask any questions or you have anything you'd like to add, just raise your hand or enter it into chat and we'll get to you. And if you have a microphone, we'll give you the audio, or you can just type it into chat and we'll read it for you. Up to you. I am going to go ahead and get going here. So first things first, I'm going to go to my ConnectSMART SP portal, and I'm going to get logged in. And I want this guy. So I'm going to log into one of my CSM tenants. Now last week we focused on the dashboard browser, and these are, let's see, so these are not your template dashboards that you guys have in your tenant. These are some of ours. But those dashboards, let's see, I don't know what Gail has in here. Okay, so this is one of the personal productivity dashboards. These all get fed by widgets. So each one of these is a widget, and what we're going to focus on today is actually creating these individual widgets. So I'm going to come back out. And Gail, I think yours is not filtered down to a member yet, so not by default. And that is... Oops, I accidentally clicked my control panel guy, not my headset mute. Okay, so just wanted to show you what these tie into. So the widgets are going to create the individual widgets that you see on the dashboard. So first things first, I'm going to come into this widget creator, which you'll find under the dashboards menu in your tenant console. Widget creator is going to open up this sort of blank screen, and this is where we can decide, do we want to create a new one from scratch? Do we want to open an existing one to configure it? We can open an existing one and save as to copy it. For now, I'm actually going to get started with charts, and I'm going to do tickets by status just to run you through some configuration options. And what we'll do is, after we've configured each widget type, we'll actually come back around and I'll show you how to put that in place when you create a new one from scratch. But it actually works a little bit better to go ahead and configure an existing widget to get a feel for what those settings are so that you can then feed that in when you create it from scratch. So just keep in mind, it looks like we're going about it a little bit backwards, but we have a ton of widgets that already exist for you to copy and for you to configure and customize. So that's where we'll start, and then we'll show you how to make one for yourself. So as I mentioned, I'm going to do tickets by status. And you've got your search here. You can also change how many widgets you show in a page, but this search will let you do that. So technically, I could look for a drill down, but right now I just want by status. And I can rearrange this by the widget name. Right now, I just want this guy. So tickets by status. Okay. So we are now in the tickets by status chart, and this is just a typical bar chart, fairly plain Jane. All it's doing is show me any open tickets that I have, and then just the breakdown by status. There's no other filters in place. For those of you who aren't aware, this does exclude child tickets, so it is only going to show me parent tickets, so no child tickets, but beyond that, there's no other filters. That's a default, not something I've set at the widget level. But so for tickets by status, I want to draw your attention here to the save as. So if I were to save as, I could just basically make a copy of this, put it in another category called custom Jen's webinar chart. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, save as, so I don't overwrite my existing tickets by status. And this guy is not closing on its own after you hit save right now, so you just have to hit cancel or X out of it, but it does save it. And right now you'll see, right now I am now in my new saved as Jen's webinar chart. And let's see, so up here, I want to bring your attention to settings. This is where you determine the title of the widget that's going to show up in the open widgets menu and when you're going to add widgets to dashboards. So this is where I've named it Jen's webinar chart. I might want to name it something obviously a little more descriptive. These are open tickets by status, not including daily recurring admin tickets. So let's say you've got some daily like invoicing and other admin stuff that you have on a board, but you don't want to exclude it necessarily outright. Maybe you just create a custom one that matches what you guys care about. And my category here is custom. I can freeform this. I can make my category anything I want. And as soon as I add one that doesn't exist, it just creates a new category for me to choose from. So that is entirely up to you what you'd like to use there. Just do keep in mind that if you go and like, let's say I had custom, but then I had one that was CSM, and then I had another where I called it ConnectSMART. I'd have to go and just rename one of them to get them to match. So looks like we have some questions. Okay, so it looks like Annette is asking, how do we know it does not include child tickets? Annette, our widget gallery on the Docs website actually mentions what that open tickets definition is. So we do exclude anything where it's a child ticket. So unless it's the orphan gadget, it's typically going to be excluding child tickets if it's based on open tickets only. Okay, and looks like Brett Bell. So Brett, you don't see that widget in your trial. Let me check and see. I'll make a note of that, and we'll check after to make sure you have it. I do believe tickets by status is part of the trial with those dashboards that we include for you, but if you don't have it, I'll make sure you get it. Because I do believe this is part of what's included. The trial is supposed to be full featured, so we will double check that for you. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so now those settings here affect the title that I see in my menu. This has nothing to do with this title that you see here. So that's where you're going to come over here to these three tabs. And the settings tab is where you're going to probably do most of your work, right? So I change this to tickets by status, help desk only, just whatever's informational for you guys. If that's, way too much info, then don't use it. Just tickets by status is fine. You're not looking at your admin boards, but when I'm going to make something for somebody else, I try to be as descriptive as possible and let them remove anything that is too much for them. Font size, pretty straightforward. You guys should probably get that pretty well. It's not a terribly foreign concept there, so just adjust it, enter your font size, and you'll see your titles change, and it'll go ahead and reconfigure the layout here so that it fits. The font color, feel free, go ahead and modify that. That is that gray that you're seeing here. If you were to put in all zeros, should see it flip to, or, maybe I don't have the right number here, so let's see. Double check that real quick. One moment. Okay, well, we will come back to that. I believe this is supposed to apply to this font, but I can't tell if I'm just not seeing the difference between the black and the gray, or if this is acting up. So I will double check, but this is where you would select your font color. Just one note for those of you who are on the webinar, not I personally, but we are going to add this so that this is not something where you have to type it in. You'll just have a color picker. You don't have to go find your hex color number. You can just pick from a menu. The type is where you can flip through the different kinds of different charts. So we've got, most of these are going to already be defaulting to what is considered probably the best visual, but just as an idea, you'll see that we can switch that to a line chart. We can make that an area. We can turn that into a step. Ta-da! For now, we're going to stick with bar just because that's the most useful one. But you do have all of these options here available. So those of you who have created charts in the past, you'll know when you might not want to use something that is like a full stacked versus just a regular stacked kind of chart. And you'll know based on the data that you're going to be using. That's more for someone who's going to do a custom one. But let's say you've got your tickets by status and you just want it to be modified a little bit. You can change how those charts look without having to go and make anything new from scratch. So I'm going to make that back to a bar. Showing the legend, can turn that on. In this case, because it's just one series, all of these are just ticket numbers, or ticket counts. So there's not a distinction between the two or between them. So there's no multiple series. So this isn't a particularly exciting little legend here. Now, if we were doing another one that I will show you, you'll see where the legend gets a little more interesting and it'll give you the breakdown of everything that you're seeing. So what this widget is actually looking for is it's looking for a data query. And in last week's and in the, or not last week's, but in the last couple webinars, we did cover kind of that overview of how the data queries feed into things. So the data queries feed into the widgets, which feed into the dashboards. So you've got to have a data query already existing before you can go ahead and use it to populate a widget. So next week is where you'll learn how to create your own data queries. Here you can actually go ahead and select from the data queries that are available to you. Whoops, sorry, I right-clicked something. So you can choose from the data queries that we've included for you. And in this case, this is tickets by status. But just to give you an idea, if I wanted to change that to tickets by priority, no data. Okay, so the reason that is because this is looking for a number, not a number, but a column name here. And I'm going to show you that tickets by priority chart. We're going to open up tickets by priority. Oh, sorry. We're going to go to test. Okay, so we're looking for the priority is the value that we're looking for. And the reason that is because we're already showing the value as our count and the x-axis parameter before you saw was status, and now we're actually looking for priority because I'm switching that to a tickets by priority chart. Now, the real-world application for this is probably not that often, but if you got everything to where you are and you want to just switch it to a different data query, that's how you would do it. You just need to make sure you keep in mind that if you're using a different column name, you're going to have to switch that because before it's looking for status, it's not going to find it. Whereas if it's looking for priority, we are all good. And in here is where you can actually go ahead and test things. So you've got your filters. I can go ahead and say I just want to see stuff on the help desk. I want to exclude, I don't know, something, you know. Say I just want to exclude those. I never want to see these. I made a mistake. I don't want that. I'll just go ahead and exit out. So when you save these, you can certainly use these just to test, but when you save the gadget, it will keep these as the default. So unless you override them at the dashboard level, it'll default to having the whatever you leave here in the test filters. I am going to go ahead and remove help desk, and I'm actually going to flip this back to my tickets by status just to stay sort of consistent. There we go. All right, so again, I lose my data because I'm not looking for the status, and there we go. All right, so we are back to a tickets by status chart. And what happens now? So those of you who've used the dashboard, you know when you click on one of these, something happens. Ta-da! All right, so what just happened? So I clicked on this guy, which is looking for my customer updated, and this is across an entire instance of ConnectWise. And I'm going to go ahead and open that, and I should see those 39 tickets reflected in here. And in this drill down, you guys will see on my overview where you can do a lot of different things here, like export to Excel, use your column chooser, move things out of the way, put stuff back, things like that. But what I want you to pay attention to is this link here. So this ticket link is going to let me actually open this ticket inside of my browser. But the reason clicking this opens that drill down is because of what's in this action tab. So the action is where we're going to define what happens when I click on a gadget. And when I click on it, in this case, I want to use, in this case, this is my tickets by status drill down. And this drill down is designed specifically to work with this chart. We'll cover next week in the custom stuff how that actually all sort of ties together. But in this case, we just know that tickets by status and tickets by status drill down do go together. And let me show you. And now if you ever see something not showing up here, just hit this guy and you'll see everything. And that's just going to be based on what was selected as the chart or gauge or whatever kind of widget type was associated with that query. Or I'm sorry, with that, yeah. So this is looking for tables. So it's looking for drill down widgets. So if you're missing it, you can always add them back there. So to set the filters, these are all, you see how these are looking for parent widget board name, parent widget urgency, parent widget service type? That's because we want our drill down widget to inherit everything from the parent widget. So it wouldn't do me any good to filter this tickets by status down to, it would do me no good to filter my tickets by status down to the help desk, right? If my drill down is going to show me tickets by status for everything under the sun. So I want this to inherit whatever board names I selected, whatever priorities I've selected, my service types, my subtypes. And here we go. So instead of inheriting the statuses that I might have selected, I don't want that. I only want to see these 39 that I'm picking. So in that case, I'm picking my selected value is customer updated. So I want it to pass along whatever I selected, which is going to be my selected value from the parent widget. So what that means is all of these will be honored from the parent widget, with the exception of the status where it's going to filter down just to the one that I selected. So just keep that in mind. You could technically have it show you everything. If I was just to say do this, I'll just get all of them. It won't filter down just to the one that I grabbed. So now I should get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of tickets, which are going to take a minute to come in. There we go. Of course, it's that lovely. I know you're on a webinar, so we're going to go a little slower than usual. Kind of voodoo. You know what? I am so sorry. There we go. So this is actually tickets by status drill down requires a selected value. I apologize for that. So if I were to say I just want to see everything, I would actually do tickets open, where'd you go? Tickets drill down, and that is where I would have everything inherit, and that should give me all my open tickets. There we go. So this is all my open tickets, and that's just inheriting everything. So basically I've got all of these guys showing up in here. And then once I get in here, let's say I want to manipulate it a little differently. I can take my status. Oops, let's try it different. Where'd my other tickets drill down go? That ticket drill down didn't have the additional exports and things that I've been putting in. Here we go. Okay. There we go. So, get back to my other one here. Tickets by status. Now I'm showing all. All right, I'm going to go ahead and put this one back. I don't want to stay on the chart too long, so I'm going to put this back to selected. So that drill down continues to work. And let's find my agenda. Okay, so, all right, so we will go ahead and take a look at a gauge, which I went ahead and popped in here. The gauge is a little less complex than the chart, so if the last one seemed a little overwhelming, fear not, this one is a lot less exciting. So here is where I would go ahead and add my title. These guys up here along the top, new, open, save, save as, delete, those are always going to be pretty universal, so you wouldn't expect to see that change. But let's say open tickets on the help desk. So I can go ahead and make that larger if I am so inclined. Okay. So let's say I never expect to have 0 on this, and it's kind of useless for me to keep it like this. I could technically set a lower bound of, like, I don't know, 150. Typically that's going to default to 0, but you have your choices there. This, without setting something, will default to 100. I'm going to go ahead and put 500 just because I know I have about 300 and something. Let's see. So the range colors will not come into play yet. I believe this is for the next push, but that will actually let you assign color conditions. So that'll be nice to have. That'll be all in the UI here, so you won't have to go and configure anything in the back. And then showing the major ticks, that's these. These are the in the intervals of 10. So if I select this and hit apply, you'll see those disappear. And if I turn those back on, change that interval to, say, 25. Actually, let me put it back to 10 where it was, so you see them reappear. And when I change that out to 25, you'll just see how it changes my intervals. And if I think it's a little too busy with all these minor ticks, I can remove those outright, or I can put them back and say maybe put those at 5 instead of 1. You know. So play with those until it looks exactly like you want, but you've got those options. And also you can change your pointer here to look however you like. You've got a few canned options in here. Ooh. So yes, so these are a little different than the ones that we had before. So if you're used to the CS4 world, these are definitely more interesting. I don't have a particular preference, and it's kind of irrelevant to our demo here, but know that that option is available. The start angle is gonna be, let me just start this from scratch. Oops, made him mad. I'm making it angry, apparently. I'm gonna come in and monkey around with everything. All right, so gauge. Okay, so these just correspond to how it starts and ends. I am going to have a hard time showing you here. I will point you guys to some docs with some screenshots that will show you the difference between those, because here it's going to go ahead and load my data. Open tickets count is the query behind this. Just the same way, I could do pretty much any kind of count. So let's see. So for example, my CSAT reactions, the past X days. Let's see. So I'm going to go look at those. And I am going to, oops, execute. And so the reason I'm doing that is I just want to see what my column names are, and I'm going to do a reaction count. So it tells me, what this is going to do is tell me how many responses I have had in the past, however many days. Whoops, and days, let me put that to, let's do 90. And there we go. So we've had about 40 something, and the way I could probably make that a little more obvious is to use that text cloud. There we go. So we've had 42. And there we go. So that is actually way too high. So let's make this say 100. Let's see. The reaction count. Okay, so if I wanted to go back to, let's say, my tickets open count. Let's see if this is not refreshing. Here we go. Alrighty, 500. I definitely don't have. These are looking for a username. Sorry about that. This normally gets fed from the dashboard settings on a personal productivity widget like this, like my tickets open. So in this case, I have 121 tickets technically assigned to me right now. And you see, though, for this one, it works without putting in a value. So it's really only if you're going to use something that has multiple columns where you'd have to identify the specific column that you're looking for. So that's why I was showing you the other. That reaction count is where you can go and see if you open the query it's looking for, you'll see these guys that you can then use over here. But we do have a ton of counts in here that are already available without you having to identify those. Those are actually going to be more for you to use next week. I'm just kind of highlighting what that does. Okay, and let's see. So we have gone over the chart, the gauge. I'm going to take a look at the pie chart, although that is going to have a lot of overlap from the original chart, so you're not going to see a huge distinction there. Okay, and as I mentioned before, so this is that legend where it's giving you that breakdown of what each of these colors correspond to, because here I actually have a bunch of values, or not values, but I have a bunch of labels. Here, instead of giving you a ton of choices like you did with the bar chart, the area, stacked, full stacked, here it's just pie and donut, and that's because the different config settings do overlap one another. Same stuff as before. You can modify your title, your normal stuff. You can change your... So when I hover, I have it set to highlight that series. Technically, I can turn that off if I'm so inclined. Maybe I should hit apply first. Okay. Versus, figure out how to find this guy. Okay, so it's hard to sort of explain verbally what that is. So let me show you. When I have it set to show nothing, actually here, I'll show you what it does, then take it away. So when I hover over customer updated, you see how it changes here to highlight that section? That's all this does. So if I say show nothing, it'll still show me the amount, but it doesn't highlight that particular piece like this. That's all. Okay, all this stuff applies the same way as any other chart. So same deal, if you've got multiple columns to choose from, you do have to identify what should be your x-axis, and a bar that would be along the bottom. Typically, if it was a vertical bar chart, on this, it would correspond to your legend on a pie chart. And action, same deal with the drill downs, just like that chart I showed you. You're going to need to use a drill down associated with that particular parent widget so that it is looking for whatever value you selected here. Or you can just always use the open tickets drill down and have it pull in everything, although I recommend going ahead and making it a little more functional. Okay, and I'm going to come on over here. Let's do a drill down. We will do my tickets open. Oops. Here we go. Okay, again, this is another one of those personal productivity widgets. So it's looking for a username, which would typically be defined at the dashboard that you're adding it to. And here for testing purposes, I have to go ahead and give it a username, or else it's just going to show me all the tickets. The one thing in here, so these are typically going to be used to define your drill downs. So you would simply just be displaying a list of information. So these typically are going to correspond to a query that's going to return a bunch of rows that correspond to one of your counts. So this is the actual details behind it. So my tickets count on its face is going to show me 121. Tickets open. Oops. Is it my open tickets? Ah, there we go. Okay, so when I filter this guy down to me, you will see that I have the 121. And then when I drill into it, it's going to open up what you just saw there, but it's passing through my name so that it goes and gets me just those 121. So here we go, back to drill down. So what I want to show you is how to turn that ticket number into a link. So our standard drill downs are going to include that automatically. But if you have somewhere else you want to add that, there we go. Or if you see that it's not there, or you have a new one that you're creating, or you want to add it to another column, I'm going to come over here. I'm going to show you my columns. So you see all these are strings. It just means that it's showing me the text for that particular column. And this guy is a link, which corresponds to these being clickable links. The difference here is instead of it being a string, it's a link. I don't want it to blow that stuff away, but let me copy this out real quick to hold on to it. So when it's a string, these guys go away. When it is a link, cell value gets populated again. It keeps what you had before. But the basic syntax here is it's looking for properties that we add for you of your base URL. This is referencing the actual record type. So this would be ticket, company, opportunity, agreement, invoice, any of those records that we'd go to directly, that's where this would be indicated, whereas all the rest of it stays the same. And then your company name. This is going to exist in your tenant properties. We're actually going to be adding that automatically for you in the near future, but I can, if anybody has any trouble getting access to their properties, just send us an email and we will get those added for you or show you how to do that. But what this does is when I click on this, it's going to take each piece of that, right? My base URL, it's going to slap on the additional syntax for the ticket. It's going to take this cell value, which is the ticket number, and it's going to slap on my company name so that it creates that URL. And so I can give you an example. I'm going to go to 259, such and such. All right, so see, it's taken me to CSMART. It's taken me to that ticket number. It's going to prompt me to log in. I am not going to do that right now, but that is how that works. So the only thing that we changed from one link to another is that middle piece, the part that references ticket, which is this guy. So this piece is referencing the ticket, and that cell value is just coming from what's being returned. So this could be an opportunity rec ID, it could be a contact ID, it could be anything like that. And that is the part that's going to get swapped out. So it's just going to look for either it knows here that it's a service record and that that's the ticket number. It could just as easily be a company and a company rec ID, and it'd take me directly to that company. So you're not limited just to tickets, just to opportunities. You can link to activities, to companies, to agreements, all those things. I believe the properties that we have available now, let me just show you a quick overview. Yeah, so you can do tickets, activities, contacts, companies, opportunities, configs, so that's configuration records, schedule records, it'll take you right to the calendar entry, time records, it'll open the time entry directly, the expenses, same thing, and the company name, separate from this one, this is your company name. And we will populate your tenant with this automatically here in the very near future. Anybody who doesn't have it at the very moment, it didn't get added for you, let us know and we'll get it in there. But these are currently the options that you can link out to. We will be expanding upon this to be able to link out to tons of other integrations like LabTech or Next.2 or GreenRope. So keep an eye here, but these are the ones that are available to you right now. And let's see, so I'm going to go ahead and see, do we have any questions? Give me just one moment. Sorry, folks, I hid your questions from myself, so bear with me one moment. I see it was a little bit back, but Annette, did you get squared away? You said you didn't have any data showing on my tickets by status, or is that still an issue for you? Because I know you're in the middle of an import, so you might not have anything yet. And Brett, it looks like you've got probably the widgets that go with some of the dashboards that are included, but not the standalone widgets, if that's how many you've got. So I will, would you mind shooting an email to support@ConnectSMART and just say that you need to get all of the widgets? That might be the fastest way. I'll make a note of it, but I've got a kind of a laundry list here this afternoon to run through, and I'd like you not to have to wait. Somebody could probably get you squared away before the end of our call. Let's see if we've got anybody else. Anybody's got any more questions, or if you want to take the mic, we can definitely do that too if it's easier than typing out any questions that you've got. I do want to touch on one thing though, from Annette's question earlier about how do we know it doesn't include child tickets and the documentation. Previously, the documentation all kind of resided over here in the gallery somewhere. There we go. But this is all going to migrate back into here. So instead of you having to go cross-reference it somewhere else, these, I don't even know what that is. It's probably somebody's testing. It's not one of mine. Let's see. Nope, these are, where's just a normal open tickets? Sorry, guys. Sometimes it gets a little confusing which tenant I'm in for our webinar, since I'm got 80 irons in the fire. Here we go. All right, so open tickets count. This is here. So this is where you'll be looking. It'll also be visible in the menu. So see how this has just the column with the name and the type in the last updated. It's actually going to be incorporating more of that. So it'll have these will probably get swapped with icons, and the descriptions will be visible from here as well. We're also going to be tagging these because categorizing them with one category or another limits you a little bit. So we will be able to include tags so that they can overlap. Since open tickets count, would apply to multiple roles, and things are becoming more role-based. So if you don't see it documented in the docs and you don't see something here, definitely give us a shout so that we can get it updated pretty quickly for you. These have been updated in a few places, although you might not have gotten another updated one with the descriptions in there. And let's see. Okay. Brett, you mentioned that you're missing some of the dashboards. You might have seen some dashboards in today's webinar because this is one of our production instances that don't exist in the trial because these are just for our own internal use or what have you, or something we were testing for a client or partner. So if you can just let us know which dashboards it looks like you think you're missing, or if you're going to, actually, you know what, you were missing some widgets. So in your email, could you just let us know that you think you are missing some content, and we'll check both dashboards and gadgets. So let me make sure I don't have a bunch of other functionality to cover. I think that was almost everything on our agenda. Yes, okay, so that actually was. So unless I have anything anybody'd like to see demoed specifically, any questions to answer, I am going to be wrapping up here shortly. This webinar will be recorded. It'll be put up on the docs site, and just like my other webinars, you will have the option to, let's see, what was one? It'll actually link directly to the point in the video. So you won't have to come watch this whole thing again or go through it to figure out where to go. So this will take you, just like this, takes you straight to that point in the video. And also just keep in mind, guys, we have actually started that. Of course, I closed it. But you can go back and review anything that you might have missed. So I know we had some low attendance with the holidays. Don't blame everyone. But these were pretty comprehensive. So if you feel like there's some gaps in what we've covered today, or you're missing some foundational stuff, that's all covered here. So this one is kind of the whole enchilada, start to finish. Here's everything and how it all plays together. And the other one you'll want to pay attention to is the ConnectSMART SP dashboard creation and config, because that goes into using the existing widgets and what you can do with them at the dashboard level, which if you've missed, could make some of those things that are inherited a little confusing. So just keep in mind, we did cover a lot of those things in, let's see, looks like that was December 17th. All right, folks, you guys have been lovely. Thank you so much for your participation. This is kind of last chance. If you want anything, yell, raise a hand, type something in the chat. Otherwise, I am going to go ahead and sign off here and bid you all adieu.